This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have Andrew Batey. He is the founder of Batey, and I'm going to let him tell you more about that. And hopefully I didn't mess up that name too much. But first, Andrew, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to join and talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, we had a great conversation and I was like, man, I need to have you in my podcast because you have so many interesting stories, mixed with blockchain, with horse racing, with going to the moon. Like, I mean, man, you're full of stories and I love it. So that's why I have you here. So first, let's dive into a quick introduction about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so I'm Andrew. I'm the co-founder of Batey. What we do is we help find streaming fraud on most of the streaming platforms. So if you think about it this way, everyone listens to Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Pandora, whatever. There's hundreds of streaming services globally. What people don't know is that roughly 1 in every 10 streams is fraud. It's fake. It's not real. And so what happens is people load music on quietly, and they run bots to stream their music across multiple different platforms. And then they make money from the royalties paid out on streaming. So what's really crazy is because the industry is pro rata. So, if you're a big artist and you do 100 million plays and the platform did 1 billion plays total, you get 10% of all the revenue they make. So you get 10% of the advertising revenue, 10% of the subscription revenue. It's kind of pulled together. And so if somebody's in there making fake streams, they're quietly taking your money, and that's happening a lot. So 10% of the industry is we estimate fraudulent, and that's billions of dollars a year going into third-party fraudsters' pockets. So what our company does is we track the number of times songs are played, and we look for all the weird anomalies and all the fraud, the same way that banks look for like money laundering or ad tech platforms look for fake clicks. We're doing the same thing for the music industry, and we're the industry standard for that. So that's the company I have now.
And this is you're working then directly with like Spotify, Pandora, and all those things, all those platforms.
Yeah, so we work with we don't work directly. I can't say who we work directly with and who we don't work directly with, but we work with large streaming platforms, and we process billions and billions of streams per month. And it's one of those weird industries where I think people aren't necessarily eager to wear the scarlet letter. Like there's a lot of fraud, and I think everyone's trying to solve it. And so we help a lot of people you'd be surprised by. But I think that in general, our goal is we're a third-party trusted source that doesn't really have a thumb on the scale. Like we don't have our roots directly from labels or from DSPs. We're just a technology piece that helps them identify fraud, and everyone, it helps everybody. It helps the labels because artists get paid more fairly. It helps the streaming services because they're not paying out the wrong people. Also, it costs a lot of money to serve music. So if you find a bunch of fraudsters, for example, it reduces your cloud costs by like 20%. So your OpEx can be significantly reduced by getting fraudsters out of your system. So everyone's kind of on the same side of the table. They all want it fixed, but it's a massive problem that's just been growing like crazy the last couple of years.
Yeah, and when you say DSPs, like digital streaming platforms, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, DSPs is music streamers. I'll try to make it more casual. So music streaming platforms, yes. And there's huge endemic ones, right? There's like Ngami in the Middle East. You have Boomplay in Africa. You have Madundo. You have Savin. Like every major region has their own sort of regional player, and then you have all of these globalized brands too. So there's probably like 100 to 200 relevant streaming services around the world. People here just think Spotify, but like there's so many big companies.
I think Spotify, Apple Music, and then maybe Amazon Music. But then after that, I'm like, Do I know that there is other services? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
But I never hear about them. I never see somebody sharing about it or whatever, right? So it's kind of hard, um, but I can understand that, right? It's like everything. There's always
for sure.
things that gain popularity local, and if you're not there, then you're not there, right? And there's
Yeah.
different incentives, and that's why I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's so important, especially for these regional ones, because they probably pay even better to get people in. And if you have fraudulent people, then obviously it's just that you're paying the wrong people, and then you're not building the right community that you want to build. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's all entirely correct. And then also there's I think everybody realizes how hard music is to make. Like it's difficult. So, if you think about just how hard it is to make a song, how hard it is to promote a song, and then how hard it is to collect your money. And those are all challenging things. There's a huge amount of companies in that supply chain all the way through to help you actually collect on and monetize on what you've created, just like any art form. And so the idea that somebody else could be injecting art in there or stealing your art or stealing money that you deserve is like, I think everyone feels the pain no matter where you are. Like everyone realizes it's difficult to be an artist, and you deserve every penny you make because it's a tough business no matter what. Why make it harder on everybody?
Yeah, and where my mind went uh is the fact that before, like it seemed like recent like history, right? Like from like the Industrial Revolution until like the other day, basically, the world wasn't created for many artists to succeed. There's a very few that could do tours, and that's it. But now, with social media, stream platforms, now you can just start your music and have over 100 countries listen to it, right? Like I'm saying, like one of my friends, she started producing music this year. She's always been artistic, but then she started releasing music, and then got over 100,000 streams with 134 different countries, and that was, it's something that it wasn't even possible, in the 90s, let's say, right? Or even early 2000s, right? And now, like, being able to have those things, it's cool how the workforce, right, that the market is changing. And this is the
Yeah.
few things, right? There's a lot of room for improvement still. So obviously there's a lot to kind of like fix in this industry. So like what you're doing, clearly there's a big need, and I'm glad that that somebody is doing what you do.
No, thanks. I appreciate that. No, it's, to give a number to it, a billion, 1.5 to $2 billion a year is being stolen from artists. So, it's a lot of money that we're trying to solve, and people are inventive the way they steal. So, you close one door and they open another one. So it's a bit like whack-a-mole, and you're constantly building really sophisticated machine learning models and AI prediction tools. And we use a lot of blockchain for tracking stuff. We have like, 30 something patents in 7 countries around our technology. And so it's a constant learning evolution. You're just constantly trying to get better and iterate towards something that's an improvement. And but I appreciate the kind words. That's awesome.
you know and one thing that I wanna say now is that to add to this, yes, this is it's a cool thing that artists can make money this way. But one thing that I see a lot of artists that they fail to recognize is, when you're an artist, you're also a business owner.
Yeah.
You have a brand, you have to act like it. So the stream, it's something that, yeah, it's cool that you have that option, but that's just a part of your business, right? Like growing your brand, being able to sell merch, being able to build a community that you can get exclusive snippets of your next music and all these things. And I know that you know a lot about business and you have a lot of knowledge in this industry. So I would like to ask you for some advice for that. This might even be applicable for any business, but more specifically, given that you are in this industry, how the artists should treat their business or their music as a business.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the artist side and we can talk about other businesses. I know you and I talked before. This is my fifth company. So, and not all of them in music. Worked in healthcare. I did a peer-to-peer sharing economy with users from 100 countries. I've built an agency up. So I've kind of been all over the place, helped on a lot of turnarounds and whatnot. But I would say on the music specific artist side, you're right. Like streaming is one part of their revenue, but honestly, like you make a ton of money off of touring, merch, um, like specifically ticket sales and touring. Like I think you make most of your money off that and sort of the merchandising and the licensing and sync opportunities more than like you still make a lot 50 60 when you're a major artist. You probably make 50 60% on streaming. It kind of changes based on whoever, but a lot of the other things you do are very important. And I think that where people maybe mess up when they're first starting, because that's sort of the question. Like if you're trying to become a big artist, you aren't relying on streaming. Like you have 100,000 streams. For people that don't know, 1 million streams roughly pays out $3,000. So your friend made about $300 off the 100,000 streams. Like you'll never live off that. So you have to do all these other things when you're first starting, and you can't rely just on streams. And I think what's interesting about the way that music has changed is back when I used to promote artists, how I got into the music industry is I was really well known for growth hacking. So I used to like really leverage platforms like Facebook. I was really early on Twitter. It's one of the first 50 beta advertisers on Twitter. Pretty early with YouTube and hacking the algorithms on their front page to get videos on the front page of YouTube constantly. And what was interesting is back then, even if you hacked the platform, and I say hacked by not like literally coding and hacking, but finding creative ways to gain momentum inside those platforms so that you were, accelerated or their algorithms would pick you up. And back then, what was interesting is that, let's say you got on the front page of YouTube, people still had to like you. There was a lot of times we got on the front page of YouTube and people would be like, oh, that's crap. And like, you could see it in the numbers. Like you'd get on the front page of YouTube and it have no organic growth because everyone thought it was garbage. It was straight trash. And like, nobody believed in it. And then there was times where you'd get on and it would just move, it would just take off. Like it would be so organic. You just needed the spark for a fire to take. And so what's interesting is back then people still had the conscious decision. I came to YouTube to see something. I see this cool content and I either like it or I don't like it, but they're making that decision right on the spot. They love it or they don't love it. And your product was your music or your video or whatever it was. And you lived and died by, whether there was a product market fit, and it took. And it didn't take lots of time. So the hack really only helps you get the chance, but ultimately your product had to do the work. What's interesting in today's music environment is that so much of the streams comes from passive listening now on playlists. So if you get playlisted, no one's really like, if I asked you to go to your last playlist and tell me what the last 10 songs were, you probably wouldn't know most of those artists, but you just listen to them. Are you a fan? Probably not. Like if you got an email being like from Spotify, this artist is so happy that you're listening to them, please come to their concert, you probably won't buy the ticket. So what's interesting is that there's so much passive listening and passive fandom now that people aren't making that active decision to like you. You just happen to be there as they're listening to other stuff. And so what I think is really interesting about that is that the more you focus on gaining streams, typically it revolves around getting playlisted because that's how people listen, or getting access to popular playlists across different services, not just Spotify or Apple or whatever. But those people might not even care about you. Like, can you sell 100 tickets to your show in Denver? Like, probably not. And so what's interesting, I think, is that the tried and true way of building real fans by going and doing all the crappy shows and getting in a van and going like one town at a time and building with 10 people who happen to be there who go like, wow, I really love that artist. And then you spend the time after the show meeting them and being their friend and following them on Instagram and engaging with them and like being human. Those are your core fans that just takes years to build. And there's really no escaping that. And I think for a hot second, there was escaping it. Like in the 2012 to 13 range, you could cheat it because like you just needed access. But I think now people are so passive, you can't cheat it. And what I think I see more common than not is people just getting their hands dirty. Like you just have to be willing to ride in a U-Haul van and sleep in the back and, do the crappy part of building a business that it, like you said, as an artist, is building a business. So I would, my advice to artists is that don't overlook the simple things that seem simple. Like you don't have to overcomplicate it. It still comes down to meet a true fan, be human, build an authentic relationship with them. They will want to support you because they like you and because they like your music. And you just have to repeat that 100,000 times over until you get a core base of people. And I think that's how you build longevity. Like I know so many amazing bands who never made it commercially. Like they may have never had a top 20 hit, but they have a core massive following. Like the band that comes to mind right off the bat is this group called the Expendables. Um, and they were pretty big, I would say, in like the late 2000s, early 2000s, but they weren't like, as far as I know, they weren't like built like selling stadiums. You know, they were
I
never. I
haven't
don't
heard of
know
them,
them
so
being on the radio, but they will sell out thousands of tickets every city they go to. They have such a core fan, but it's because they've been on the road for so many years. People love them. They relate to them. They like them. And so 20 years later, they're still selling out 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 ticket shows and making a living off of their music, without ever having maybe like a Grammy, but they have a core audience who loves them and shows up. That's way better than most of the people we see today that just get one playlisted song, some quick streams, and then that's it. Like you don't remember them anymore. So I would say my advice is do the hard work. Like don't try to find the shortcut. Just do the hard stuff. And that's the part that sucks to do. But I think that's when you stand out. That's how you build true value.
yeah. To dissect this in how I received it is main thing. Obviously, you gotta have good music, right? Like you gotta got something that is good content, good music, something like that. That's the main thing. But a lot of people can do that, right? So then after you got that check mark that a lot of people can do,
Yep.
now it goes to building, basically build a movement out of it, like build a strong brand that then you are connecting with fans multiple ways, right? Could be online or off or both, right? Like
Yep.
ideally both. And create loyal fans that from there, when you create loyal fans, you have advocates of your brand now, because nothing like somebody that discovered the next big artist, right? Like that is the best thing. Like every time I remember this female in Puerto Rico, her name is Right Now, and I saw her. She had like maybe 3,000 followers on Instagram, like, and I listened to her music, and I was like, this shit is good. Like, and she has the style, she has the body, she has the way that she connects, and I was like, I tell my friend, I'm like, look, this girl, she's gonna be big, like that. And then I started like posting a few things about her and stuff. Now she's probably like over 40,000 like a year later or so. Like now she is like verified, like selling out different places in Puerto Rico, and like now she's just, everybody's talking about her. She's going to podcasts, all those things, right?
Yep.
And that's what you want to, right? Like look, you create those like loyal fans that are gonna be talking about you. Sell a small place, stay after, connect with them, build that trust. They
Yep.
start following you, they start DMing you, all the stuff, and then they start sharing your content. You connect more and more with them. They give a name to your audience, all that stuff, right? You start creating all these things, and then like spreads like wildfire now, right? And that, with the combination with the good marketing, like what you say, like there's growth hacking that can be involved, right? If you surround yourself with the right people, like let's say like you have an Andrew in your network, or you connect with somebody that connects you with somebody like him,
Yeah.
and then from there, you build you start a movement now. And now when you have a movement, you don't have to get like Grammys, you don't have to get anything. You're touring, you have your fans, you make a living, you're happy, right? And that's that relates a lot to business too, right? Because in business, especially now more than ever, I would say, content is the equivalent of your art now. That is
Yep.
what it is, right? And that's why in my company and me personally, I'm prioritizing YouTube right now, because in YouTube now, with YouTube Shorts, and now that they are creating usernames too, so now like they clearly kind of becoming a social media now, and it's the place that people go to how to do this, right? Like they want to solve problems, they want to be entertained, they want to edutain now too. That's a big one right now, right? Like edutainment, like being
For
able to
sure.
entertain people with education. So that's why I wanted you to give these things because I knew that it relates a lot to business, because you build a strong brand, you build those like loyal fans. It's just your first couple clients, the first couple people that are consuming your content, you engage with them, you build a community, and then you grow from there, right? Like that's exactly what I'm doing personally, and mainly with my clients first, right? And then with me, that I'm launching my channel to doing this thing. So thanks for all that insight. I mean, I know that I learned a lot from that, and I there's gonna be everybody that listens to this, there's a lot of value in here. So hopefully, did I do good at dissecting that?
I think it was great. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think that was awesome. Perfect.
Thank
Yeah,
you. So that, like, I really, that's why I call this like moments with food, right? Because it's not just, hey, I'm gonna ask questions, and that's it, right? Like I want to be able to dissect, because I feel that I can, I'm the audience in a way, right? Too, right? Because I'm here
for
listening.
sure.
So thanks for that. So is there any challenges that you see that are common, that you have overcome, or maybe your clients, that you think is worth sharing with the audience?
Yeah, I think the thing that this is my fifth company, so I would say the early challenges I had were around company culture. I really didn't believe in company culture like in the beginning. I kind of thought it was garbage. Company culture in the terms of like everybody, especially in the Valley or in tech hubs, they do catered lunches, and it was all about let's go to you know baseball games together, or hockey games, or it was all about like activities you were doing with your coworkers. That was more, do you have a bus that drives people around? Like that's not real connectedness of like your employees or your people or your team. And
Mandatory fun.
so yeah, it's not really fun. No one really cares about it. It's not really authentic, I guess is the word. And so I really just didn't believe in culture, because if you think about how much it takes to manufacture an inauthentic culture with events and team things and mandatory fun and like stupid contests and SaaS platforms to add in where people give each other fake kudos so they can be seen giving their coworkers fake dabs on stuff. Like it's just like um, it's an annoyance that I think takes too much time as you're trying to do the one thing that a startup does, which is survive. Like, can you survive? Can you make a product people want? Can you make something people will buy? Um, and then from there, you have the luxury of having culture. Like, then your culture you can worry about later. That's how I always thought. And I think what I learned along the way is I did that. And then I built a company that was hundreds and hundreds of employees without focusing on culture. We scaled quickly. And then what I realized at scale was that if you didn't plant the seeds early enough to have a positive culture, it can very easily backfire and you have a very negative culture. And what I had at that time was a culture that was very, very difficult to manage. Everyone had their own little fiefdoms where they controlled their own departments. No one really wanted to participate with each other. Everyone had a different vision of what the company should be. No one was swimming in the right direction. And changing that was near impossible, because you don't just go back and start changing hearts and minds for hundreds of people at a time. You almost, and then any new person you bring in that you're excited about just gets the cancer of what's already there. And so it's very hard to change that company like later. And so I would say what I learned along the way is that culture is not BS. It is actually very critical, and it's a survival necessity if your company's going to make it long term. But I think focusing too much on culture early distracts you from surviving. So the sort of challenges I've overcome have been, how do you create enough authentic culture that people like love working with each other and you have a really great environment, but you aren't necessarily spending all your time on it. And so what I kind of, the challenge, or the thing I created that I now take with me everywhere, is this thing called culture in a box. That's what I call it. And it's just like a couple things I always do. I always do this thing at the end of the week called Cheers, where we give it's like anonymous. Like you don't know who's writing these, but it's just, thanks Andrew for helping me do this one thing, or thanks homeless guy for shitting on our front doorstep. I've been meaning to use our back door this whole week anyway. Like it's like funny, but also like positive. And what happens is it creates these really authentic moments, and there's no politicalness to it because you don't know who wrote them. You read them all, you evenly distribute them, and you read them all at the end, and everyone writes 3 to 5 of them. So we literally give them out. Now it's digital, so it's a Slack notification, but it takes 4 minutes to write them. We do it at the very end of the week. It takes 20 minutes to read them. And there's this crazy, it sounds kind of cultish, but there's this crazy positive like affirmation thing that occurs where everybody feels really good about the week they just had. Someone recognized their work. Somebody said something really, you have no idea who it is, but you just feel so appreciated by your team. And I think it's always weird when we first hire people because they probably come in and they're like, what is this weird crap? But then like a month later, it's everyone's favorite day of the week. And it takes zero time for it. It takes 20 minutes. It takes almost no effort for me at all. And so that was like the one biggest impactful thing that I ever did with any company to like build a authentic relationship between people where they felt really connected with one another, but it wasn't forced or manufactured. And I have no idea who writes these things. Everyone just does it. And it's, if you start it early, it just grows. And as your company scales, every department can do it. And so it's something that's easily scalable, but like has such a positive impact on your business. And the other thing I do, I kind of added, I kind of stole from fraternities, I would say. I wasn't in a frat, but they do this at like with secret societies and stuff like that. If you ever like look into Yale or whatever, and they have to do this entire day where they present everything about themselves, like a full biography. And the point is not that you tell everyone about yourself. The point is actually that you were so vulnerable that you opened yourself up, that people accepted that vulnerability and then reciprocated that vulnerability with their own. And you have this trust that's built from being vulnerable with your coworker. So what I did was I started this biography thing where we do like 30 to, I say but it was myself and my co-founders, Morgan and Poria, all of us together. We decided to like, let's do these biographies and we'll do 45 minutes to an hour where we share all the like really critical parts of our life, like where you struggled, things that like were really important to you and meaningful, about your family, what your dreams are, what you hope to do after this, because I'm not naive to think that everyone's going to work with us forever. So how do we help you aspirationally? Like really be vulnerable. And for myself, that meant like struggles with my weight, struggles with some of the stuff I've had in the past. And what's crazy is by being the first one to open up like that, everybody else on our team then did the same thing. And it builds this really authentic trust and vulnerability amongst the team that really makes everybody feel like a cohesive unit. And it takes, again, we did it one time for everybody that joined the team or was on the team. So it's one of those things you just do. And I think those are the two most impactful things that have ever happened that I do at every one of my companies now moving forward, because it creates such a unique atmosphere of trust and friendship that is authentic and it's not manufactured. And I think that didn't require money. It required minimum time. But at scale, when you hit 200 employees, when you're successful, that is the piece that will carry through to all the employees as it grows. It's not the lunches and it's not the like free bus tours or whatever else you do. So I'd say that's the challenge I overcame, was changing my mind around culture and how important it was, because I saw it firsthand fail, and then thinking through how do you plant those seeds so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So for the anonymous thing, like how do you make it? Do you have like a software or something to be able to
We
make
literally
it?
use Google survey, like Google, like where you just the Google
Okay,
Forms, and you make
perfect.
it so that there's no email or anything associated with, like it does not track. It's just a timestamp and what people want to give as a cheers. And that gets fed into a form, and then I just distribute those. So Friday hits, we all jump on a Zoom now because it's a distributed team now. That it used to be pieces of paper in a box. We would spend like an entire afternoon making the ugliest box you can imagine because it was kind of funny. But now it's digital. But anyway, yeah, you just get them and you read them out, and we go one by one reading them out. And most people are drinking beer or whatever, water, it doesn't matter. But you're
Well,
just
yeah,
cheersing each
whatever.
other.
It's a relaxed time. And then for like the biography, you just take is this something more? It seems like it's more not every week, right? Or is it every week? Is
No,
it like
we do
once?
it. Yeah, we you only do it once as an employee. So it's like when you first join the team, you're asked to do it roughly in like 3 to 4 weeks. We being the founders and a couple of our senior leadership team recorded ours, so you have a understanding of what they look like. So also that everyone comes in knows, can share in that vulnerable aspect with us. And then after you present, so you might present for like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then everyone on the team asks questions, and those questions can last like 15 minutes. 20 minutes, hour. Like it's really just people engage with you and ask, someone on our team was like an eco warrior, which was like kind of, I would have never guessed that was like in that person's background. And it was just so interesting. They like lived in the trees for 2 years, trying to keep, forests from being, deforested, like from logging. And I'm like, I would have never put that with that person, but it was so interesting. Or one of the quietest guys on our team is like really hardcore into mountain longboarding, and he'll do like 60 miles an hour down massive hills. And he's like a quiet programmer, and you like would never put the two together. And you just learn such really interesting things about the people on your team, and it's fascinating. And then you ask questions and you're engaged, and it's just like a really cool way to build connectiveness in your company. But again, you do it one time as the employee. So unless you have like thousands of employees, you're probably not doing it every week. We staggered ours out like every other week, we'd bring another one. And then when we run out of them, we do a game night instead. So we do like some sort of digital game, like code names or, like capture the flag online or whatever. And we just do something together as a team that's not work related. But it's that or the sort of bio. The other thing we'll do sometimes is we'll mix in random pitches, which is also really fun. So we pull random pitch decks, and you don't know it has 13 slides and you have 3 minutes and you don't know what you're pitching yet. And then everyone decides on Slack on the moment. So like one of my favorites was ice skating is really a water sport. And so it's like, you just like have random things and you don't even know what the deck looks like. So the screen is changing and you're presenting a topic you don't know. And it's just like the
improvising there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, that sounds fun. I never heard about that. I made a couple notes and everything because I know that culture is very important. And for me, growing like now, like building a team, it's been the toughest thing of business. Who to hire, even if it's just a contractor or just be part of the team, right? It's
Sure.
incredibly difficult. That's been my hardest thing. So that's why for me, this is one of the most valuable things, because knowing simple stuff like this can do so much, and that's why, I was like making my notes and stuff. So, thank you for that. You were very articulated with that, and that's why I asked you. I was like, hey, but how do you do this? Because the idea sounded good, but I want to take action, right?
Implement.
Like I want to have it
for sure.
And hopefully that I help the audience to be able to take notes. So man, thanks for joining here. It's been great. I mean, you have so much value, so I knew that this is gonna go very well, and it turned out to be like, so organized, and we touch on so many things. So thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate the value that you have given me and also my audience.
No, thanks for having me. I think we did a great job for having no agenda or game plan. So we crushed it.
Right.
This moment was awesome. I equally enjoyed in my moment with Fu.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. So, there's gonna be some people that are gonna be like, hey, like I want to talk to this guy. So how can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. Andrew Batey, ANDREW, B as in boy, ATEY. Just find me on LinkedIn, add me. I'm always, especially if you're a founder or an entrepreneur, like I didn't get here by myself. I have a million mentors that have helped me along the way. And I think it's our job to help the others behind us. So if you have any questions or just, struggling with something, feel free to reach out. I try my best to make time for people.
Yeah, like you did time, you make time for me, and I really appreciate that. Because I like conversation that we have prior to this was great. This is great. I know that the next one we're gonna have is probably gonna be great. So I'll put the links to, I'll make sure if you didn't send the links to my admin, I'll make sure that you do. So we put it in the description, right? Make it easy for people.
No worries.
But yeah, I always like getting the guests just to say, because sometimes, like you say, the passive thing, right? Like we get more listens in the download side, on the audio side actually, than the video. So it's good to go and get in the subconscious too, right? So thanks again for taking the time. It's been great. I know I learned a lot, and I look forward to talk to you more, and hopefully we can do some cool stuff together. So thank you.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
So this was Andrew and Fu, and this is us signing off.
Cheers.
To Moments with Fu with your host, Fu. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.